This is a brand new norm for us. I know a lot of guys are nervous about next week and starting this brand new way of teaching. It's like, okay, what do you do about behavior? So let's start real quick with this slide that's on the screen right now. I asked if you were going to be teaching synchronous or asynchronous. Some of you knew what that meant, but many of you didn't. So synchronous means at the same time. So like what we're doing right now is synchronous. I am teaching you, you are learning from me at the moment, we're communicating. It's synchronous, it's at the same time. Asynchronous means not at the same time. So like the online learning classes that we have in our the My Professional Learning site at Region 10, when you're taking an online class and the assignments are posted. That's asynchronous. Your students can take the lessons, the activities at their convenience or around their schedule that they're having to share with their siblings, whoever, if it's a one device home. So it's just not at the same time, if that makes sense. Okay. So some of you might have the luxury of being a one-to-one district where you might be able to do live lessons with your kids and they're logged on at the same time. I have a feeling that may not happen a lot. Just going to be bluntly honest there, that may not happen for the majority of you, but that's okay. You guys will kind of work through your schedule here in the next few weeks. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move forward. Again, I haven't said it yet, but my name is Lori Aiden, and let me move forward. Let me talk about this real quick. This is we were going to have a transformative learning conference on April 14th. Well, as you know, with everything happening, we had to cancel it, but our theme this year was lead from where you are, and we just got to thinking we needed to share this slide because it is so appropriate for what's happening right now. We are leading from where we are, on our couches. You guys are going to be leading from where you are for your kids. You're going to be leading them in a whole new way of learning. So lead from where you are, and we are all up for this challenge. A little scary, but we can do it. This is the Region 10's digital and distance learning team. So the top row, the Catherine, Misty, Nancy, and Ashley Wilson, they are all part of the digital learning team. They are fantastic with lots of tech tools and how you create transformative learning and just have fantastic ideas on instructional strategies. Our team down at the bottom, we do that as well, but we are more concentrated on distance learning. So we work more with our online learning platform. We also have a Reggie's Robot program for homebound kids use a robot to log into their class, which they can't do that right now, unfortunately. But we all 8 of us work together to, we collaborate together and we get instructional, digital, all these wonderful tools for you guys in these sessions that we've been piping out this week. It's just been an amazing experience trying to get you guys up to speed on what you're going to need to do. Okay. So just real quick about me, I am the program coordinator for My Professional Learning. We have a brand new platform for our online learning system. You may, if you're in Region 10, if you took any compliance courses, that was probably through our system. We totally rebranded it, have a new learning management system. So I have a master's in educational technology, doctorate in teacher leadership, 27 years total in education, and 15 years of online teaching. That's K-12 and higher ed. I did teach an online driver's ed, the classroom portion of it. So I do have experience teaching online to some to 8th and 9th grade, the 15, 16-year-olds that were taking driver's ed. So we know what we're talking about, guys. All right. This website here is a list of resources for you guys that folks at Region 10 have been curating, putting together for you guys to help you through this transition. It also has a link to the webinars, the schedule you've been seeing floating around that has the link. And when we get finished, Beth is recording this for us, and when she will post that link within probably tomorrow. She's got to caption it. So sometime in the next 24, 48 hours, I need to let her breathe a little bit, but she's got to get it uploaded and put the closed captionings on it. So she'll get that posted. It'll be in the same exact place where the link to this webinar is. It'll be posted there. Okay, so you will have access to this recording later, and you'll notice we've got closed captioning going across this presentation as well. Here's the link to that remote sched, but again, you also would have that in that link we just shared a few minutes ago. Lots of links going around, maybe a little confusing. We're going to try to find a way to get all these links together easily for you guys. So today we're going to talk about behavior management in online environments. All right, so we're going to chat about some norms. What do you do about off-task behaviors? Because face it, this is going to happen. Other bad behaviors in difficult students, some best practices, what to avoid, and suggestions for intervening. Now, normally I don't read slides word for word, and normally I don't put a lot of text on slides. I am in this case because I want the closed captioning to come across for folks that may need that extra assistance in attending these presentations, okay? So again, a lot of text. Sorry, that's not a good norm, but we're going to go ahead and do that just for trying to help meet the needs of anybody that's watching this. All right, so collaborative norms. If you've attended some workshops there at Region 10, one of the things that we really like to do is have some collaborative norms for the workshop. Okay, what are our expectations during this workshop? That should be the same thing in your classroom. And what's really cool is when you can have your students help you come up with those norms. You guys may have already done this in your face-to-face. Y'all have been with your kids since the beginning of school, so they already may know their norms. But this is a brand new way of learning. So what you need to do is, okay, let's talk about some new norms for how we're going to learn now. So have them share ideas on what's allowed and what's not allowed. You want the positive and the negative. What's good things to share? What are things that we need to be doing? What are things that we shouldn't be doing? And I put some prompts here like, should bad language be allowed in discussions? No, but if they're having a hard time coming up with ideas because this is new for them, here's some prompts, okay? So, should bad language? Should you use complete sentences and proper grammar? Because they're going to be doing their little emojis and their little LOLs and all those different initials that I have no clue what a lot of them are nowadays. So have them talk about, that we need to see complete sentences. That's just another way of extending your education with them. Should talking down or cyberbullying a classmate be allowed? Should they make an effort to encourage each other and respect each other? Should a family member or a friend be allowed to complete their work? That's always a big concern. It's like, what if mom's actually doing the work? Well, we don't really know that, but if you can get these expectations to your kids and get them to think, okay, why? Why they need to be doing it, that will make a difference. Okay, should they complete work by established due dates? That's going to be tricky right now. Okay, we all know that that's going to be tricky, but you guys will get a sense of how things are going to flow as these next few weeks go along. Okay, next here. All right, and then I put in here why or why not. So when you're asking them to talk about the norms, why is it important that you do the work and not your mom or your dad or your brother or your sister? Have them think through why. I'll put a link on here. I'm not going to click on these links. They're here for you when you get the presentation, but the ISTE standards for students. I put a link to a digital citizenship pledge example. It's a form they fill out. And in your norms, in your classroom norms, share the process of how disruptive behavior will be addressed. Okay, that may already be addressed in your district handbook. So what's the process? Well, the process may be, I'm going to talk to you privately first. I may have to escalate to your parent. So figure out what that process is and let them know that process. Share consequences of what that disruptive behavior or breaking the norms is going to look like. So think about all these things when you are working through this collaborative norms, okay? All right, so we're going to talk about off-task behavior first. And I pulled this link from a face-to-face example, and I put the link at the top for where I pulled these examples from. As you can imagine, we were scrambling pretty quick to get some sessions ready for you, so I think I found some pretty good resources. So this is from the NEO LMS, the NEO Learning Management System. They have a blog. And so I put the face-to-face thing here, and then down at the bottom I put some ideas for online adaptation, okay? So greeting each student at the door as a method of connecting with them. We've all seen these fantastic videos going around where your teachers are, doing these different little, hand slaps or hugs or whatever, but greeting them, okay? Face-to-face, be more assertive from the beginning. Off-task behaviors are not acceptable. Always keeping a calm demeanor at all times, presenting the agenda for the day or a to-do list so students know what they're supposed to be doing at all times. These are all great face-to-face things to do every day. So for online adaptation, phone calls that the district allows. We're not quite, every district's going to be different on how you guys are going to be communicating with your students. Video recordings, mentioning your kids by name. They need to hear their name, guys. They need to hear that you are connecting with them, that you care about them. Discussion threads, mentioning them by name in the discussion thread. Create a schedule for the week. It's going to be a little touch and go at the beginning. You guys are just going to have to work through the first few weeks to see how this goes, but create a schedule for them of your expectations. And if you've caught any of the other sessions that we've had along the way, it's like you're definitely not going to be able to teach as much as you taught in class. You're going to have to scale back a lot of your lessons, a lot of your expectations of what you need to get through, but still get the minimal amount across. So create a schedule. Let the students know how often you will be checking on them. Are you going to check on them daily? Are you going to check on them every few days? Ideally, it's daily, Monday through Friday, but everybody, you've got to practice self-care as well. So let them know how often you're going to check on them, okay? So second one, optimize their environment. So if you were face-to-face, students get sidetracked by their surroundings all the time. How many of us have stared out the window? I'm glad it's not a sunny day or I would just be out there staring out there the whole time. Classroom can be designed to engage students and improve their focus, minimize distractions. You can change the seating arrangement and go for U-shaped arrangements for group discussions or flexible furniture. If y'all have been to the Region 10, the newly remodeled Region 10 Center, you'll notice that we've got very flexible seating now to help try to keep our learners engaged throughout the session. So it's the same thing for your kids. But what do you do about online? Okay, you're not there with them. So encourage your students to establish a routine, set their school hours for their family. So help them think that through. Help them come up with creating a space. Let them know if they can create a space in their home that's dedicated just for learning, like the kitchen table. Maybe it's a desk, maybe it's a TV tray that's in front of one particular chair. If they can have one particular place that's dedicated. Now, whether you can have flexible seating in that space, but help them to think through that they need a dedicated place just for their classroom time at home during this new way of learning, okay? And then that way, when they're there, they're concentrating on work. When they are in their bedroom, it's something else, okay? It's reading a book or playing their games. Be open and honest with them. Have conversations about the challenges that they're experiencing, because learning from home is going to, it's going to present some definite distractions. So have some heart-to-hearts with them and help them come up with solutions. Use reminders. So face-to-face teachers, y'all can successfully manage disruptions with techniques that nonverbal reminders, like or verbal ones, what are you supposed to be doing now? Nonverbal ones, like setting a sound on your phone or choosing a hand signal. just stepping in front of them, it's like, okay, simply reminding them about that previously established, sorry, let me go back. Schedule can make all the difference. So online, you can send reminders via whatever communication tool that you're using. So are you guys using email? Are you using your learning management system? You guys that are your kids, you're going to have kids that don't have online access. So are you getting notes or mail sent to them? So how are you going to give them reminders of what's due or what needs to be done? If an assignment has not been submitted, you need to send a reminder to the student asking if there's anything you can do to assist them in completing the assignment. It shows you they care. Maybe they just are coming up with some challenges. Maybe they don't understand the assignment. So you need to reach out and send reminders and remind them about the established norms that you guys created together. Okay, so assessing the activity. So in face-to-face, it's difficult to come up with something new every day. And as teachers like to point out, sometimes they're not there to entertain students. That's true, but you do need to come up with activities that are challenging enough, but not too challenging, that kind of that middle of the road, because you don't want them to mentally escape what's happening. Adjust your teaching strategies to better engage your students. Let's see here. Sometimes being on task in small group activities rather than whole group instruction helps some of your kids. So for the online adaptation, you want to reduce workload for your online learning, reflect and adapt each week. So what worked, what didn't work last week. Small groups can be established in online. It's more difficult but doable for learners not online. They can use phone calls, phone conversations for each other. I would venture to think that most families have a phone that they can at least call and talk to each other. Extend time and modified expectations for those who are not online. Use creative activities that can be adapted to the online environment. I did throw this in here just because our team we handle discovery education, and there are tons of instructional strategies that can be used online and can be downloaded for instructional packets for your little ones that are not online with you guys. And if you do not have a Discovery Ed account, Discovery Ed is opening it up for free for everybody that does not have an account. Your campus administrator just needs to fill out a form, so you can reach out to any of our team. Beth, would you put your email and my email in the chat? You can reach out to us and we can help facilitate getting Discovery Ed for your campus. Okay. All right, actively supervise students. So by actively supervising students, you're also interacting more with them. It's not just something for small children, it also helps older children. It also means using more open body language by making eye contact and smiling. When a student is being particularly disruptive, I really need to move this. Let's see here. There we go. Don't isolate them. Instead, bring them to a seat near you in the front of the classroom. Well, can't do that in online. So how do you do this face-to-face, or how do you do this online? Well, you need to contact them directly, but privately. Don't ever do this, call them out in front of everybody else. So synchronous, you can go into a chat room that's with just them in there. Asynchronous, you can do phone calls, emails, use the learning management messaging system, whatever particular thing you have. And then share your expectations. Give them breaks. So in a face-to-face environment, sometimes we just need to take a little pause and assess the situation. Sometimes they just need a little bit more guidance. In this case, you just need to speak to them individually. If it's a whole group, need to pause the lesson altogether and figure out what's happening. Sometimes it could be as simple as a dip in energy levels, or maybe they're just restless. You can try to do a 3-minute icebreaker exercise, such as Simon Says. Allow doodling. Okay, 5-minute breaks sometimes just helps the whole class focus. So for an online, synchronous, you can monitor for those cues above. Same strategies can be assessed. So, just given little breaks, have kids stand up and do jumping jacks for a second and then bring them back together. If it's asynchronous, just remind students of their daily schedule and monitor and discuss if the schedule needs adjusted. Okay, have an empathetic mindset. So face-to-face, using a more empathetic mindset versus punitive in a middle school, using that has cut student suspensions in half in a 1-year period, according to one study. And I put the link to that study there. This means that teachers who empathize with students will take a less drastic disciplinary approach, but also that the student-teacher relationships are improved and students respond more positively when teachers have an empathetic mindset. So I put a couple of links there for you guys to check out. Online, same thing. And right now, more than anything, we need to be empathetic because we don't know what's happening in the child's home. We don't know how scared they are. We don't know how frustrated they are. Like, why can't I go outside and play with my friends? So be empathetic. Try to figure out what might be causing the bad behavior or the distracted behavior with your kids going on with your schoolwork. All right, so some other bad behaviors. So there might be a student that just seems to be angry. Well, think about this. These kids don't really have a lot of experience communicating online other than their little chats. And remember, they're doing all those initials that don't really complete out. So it could be a child that doesn't know how to properly compose an email. There's tons of resources out there on helping a child learn how to compose an email. They could be expressing frustration on their end. It has nothing to do with you. A quick reply usually resolves the issue and the student will respond with gratitude. If the issue isn't quickly resolved, then the student will still seemingly angry. It's best to then suggest a phone call or a video conference. So human interactions are tricky, and they're even more so online when can't see or hear one another and they are constrained. Hey Beth, do you know if the closed captionings are still going? Because I'm not seeing it going across, and I'm just curious
I'm not seeing it going across either.
Okay. All right, let me see. Is it going now? Okay. I think it maybe went to, I'm not sure what I did. So I've got it back now. Okay, cool. All right. Thanks. So some other difficult students, I put a link up here for some, where I pulled some information from an e-learning industry. Some practical strategies. Sometimes they just have lack of basic manners. Boy, lots of them have that. So they may text or email you as a teenage friend instead of as their teacher. So remember, set those communication norms. Role model polite email etiquette, texting etiquette. Again, think, what is your district going to allow? Are they going to allow you to text the student? Because that's a fine line you've got to walk there. You've got to be very careful on how you communicate. So what is your district allowing you to do to be able to communicate? But role model whatever method you're going to be able to use. Students will often follow your lead. Make sure your language reflects appropriate online teacher learning roles. Be very careful, guys, very careful in that. Use a semi-formal greeting and sign off. Start with a hello and end with a kind regards. It's warm but professional. And then sometimes it's just a lack of cultural difference awareness. So sometimes your kids just need to be taught how to communicate online. Okay. What if they're questioning your judgment or skills? I get this a lot in my higher ed. I'll get some students, some college students that will have a very tone that they shouldn't use. And so, you just have to avoid that temptation to fire back with a terse reply. If it's very rude, step away from the keyboard, calm down, get some perspective. Always assume others will read your reply, guys. Seriously, always assume others will read your reply. Administration, the parents. So, just remember that. Share your credentials. What degree did you earn to be able to teach? Okay, guys, I know what I'm talking about here. I went to school for this. So share what makes you an expert in math or whatever it is you teach. And refer them back to the norms established. Here we talked about respect for each other. That's respect for your teachers as well. What if they are demanding instant multiple responses? So share your communication time frames. What hours of the day, what days of the week are you going to reply to questions that you've received throughout the week? Set up an FAQs document. Read the latest email in a long thread if you get someone that's just email and email and email and email. And usually that very last email, they have figured out what the problem is or the answer to the question. But we have talked about all week in our sessions, online learning takes a lot of time for you, okay? So practice self-care, set time frames for when you're going to reply. I definitely recommend replying back within 24 hours unless it's a Friday and you're about to come up on the weekend. If you can answer quickly, that's fantastic, because a lot of times they have a limited amount of time. Maybe they're sharing their device with a sibling and they've only got a certain amount of time to work on their project and they've got a question. So they can get frustrated if they don't get an answer right away. But set up your expectations or what your guidelines are so that they know what time frame that you're going to be replying. Okay, it's like, okay, I'm going to be replying back from 2 to 4 every day. You could even set up online office hours from 2 to 4, whatever it works for you, but give them the clear time frame of when you are going to be responding back. Now, I'm bad about I reply back all the time, and sometimes I need to just stop, but some of us do that, some of us don't. Definitely don't go 2 days without checking in. Don't do that. I really think you need to do this. Respond to them at least within a 24-hour period. Okay, maybe you've got a student that expects special treatment. Okay, so maybe they're wanting extra time or they want you to review a draft of a project. What you need to do is discern if it's a reasonable request or a special treatment request. We know that we are probably going to have to adjust some timing, especially in these first few weeks as we figure out our schedules and how our kids are going to work through this, how you're going to work through this. But if you really feel like it's special treatment, then share your policy on deadlines. Make it clear at the beginning during this transition, but you may need to be flexible until a routine is settled into. Explain that extensive personal attention is not always possible with the number of students you're teaching. And if you do agree to extend the extra attention, explain that you will do this as your time permits, okay? They need to understand you are teaching however many students you're teaching and that they are not just the only one. Best practices. So make each student feel special, unique, important. Greet each one by name regularly, not just that first day, not just that first week. Greet them each week, somehow, some way. Let them know they are still in your mind, they are still important to you. Have fun icebreakers and discussions throughout the whole thing. One thing I do with my college kids when I do an intro, of course your kids are already together and they know each other, but maybe they don't know everything about each other. I like to do a 3 truths and a lie activity. I tell them, okay, in this intro discussion forum, tell me 3 truths and 1 lie, and then everybody try to guess what the lie is. Oh, it is hilarious trying to see what people come up with. So it's a fun thing. So do fun things with your kids. That doesn't take a lot of time out of their instruction, but lets them have some icebreakers and still be connected with each other. Let them see you as you, okay? Admit it if you're not having a good day. Sometimes they just need to see someone they can relate to, someone who's not perfect. Have a pet, let them see your pet in the instructional video. If you were here in the beginning of this session, I was holding my Chihuahua up in the video cam so that everybody could see Simi. so that you can relate more to me. They will want to relate more to you. So be real with them. If they are behaving in a threatening manner, though, you need to immediately contact your campus administration and allow professionals to deal with the conduct. Um, Granted, there's that space, they're in their home, you're in your home, but threatening or abusive behavior is not tolerated, not allowed. Don't let it happen. Stop it, nip it in the bud. Find out from your administration what is and there may already be something in your policy, in your student handbook of what is expected, okay? So definitely nip that in the bud. Monitor for your questions daily. We kind of talked about this a second ago. Have an area for questions to be posed, like have an Ask the Teacher forum. Share your schedule with your students and your expected time to reply. Weekends off. Take care of yourself. You need to give yourself a mental break, okay? I know a lot of us, we work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week as teachers. So figure out a way to give yourself a break. Give them the expectations. Let's see here. When they ask vague questions, because remember, they will get frustrated if they're not getting an answer back. Well, try to teach them clear ways to ask questions. So if your question was about this aspect of X, do this. But if it wasn't about that, please help me better understand your questions. So start teaching them how to respond to you, how to talk to you, how to ask you questions. Students are going to make mistakes. They're going to test their boundaries. That's just normal, part of everyday life. You guys are used to that. You know that. But they do need guidance from us as their teachers and from their parents. I did put a link there to an Ed Week article. Stay engaged with your kids. Students feel detached. They feel invisible. They feel hidden from the world. Figure out some way to stay engaged with them, and that will help them stay on task and feel like they're part of your class, part of your team, okay? Don't allow the behavior to continue. If something bad is happening, I say bad, but if the unacceptable behavior is happening, don't let it continue. Avoid making it a class issue. So address only the student who is causing the disruption. Boy, I wish I had known this when I was first starting out. I taught 7th and 8th grade, very first beginning teacher, and I would do everything wrong there. I was that horrible teacher that's like, okay, you guys need to go home and you all need to write 100 times that I will not do this. Like, guys, don't make it the whole class. Address just the student who is causing the disruption. Avoid an argument. You guys are the adult. You guys need to keep the calm, cool, collect. And you know how fast flaming can happen online. So when someone's on another side of the computer, they just kind of feel like they can get away with everything. So again, sharing those norms and just be the adult and teach them how to be a good digital citizenship. Don't blame or ridicule the student or use sarcasm. Talk to them, help them understand why their behavior is not acceptable. So some suggestions for intervening. Keep your focus on the student. So rather than say, class, we all know that talking during lecture is disruptive. Say, Jane, your talking during class is disrupting the lecture or the lesson, and I need to ask you to stop. This is important for those of you that's using that synchronous method. So if your kids are there and they can unmute their microphones and interrupt you, this is where you can pipe in and say, hey, Jane, I just need you to wait until I'm finished with this particular part of the lesson, and then I'll open it up to questions, okay? Be clear about the behavior. If the student is talking out of turn, tell them. So rather than ask, do you have a question, say, okay, Jane, now is the time, or now is not the time for discussion. There will be an opportunity for questions and debate at the end of the lesson. Nip the situation in the bud. Refer them to the student handbook or class norms. Jane, you will note in the handbook, talking during my lesson is considered disruptive. I need to ask you to stop talking again, or if I need to, I'll need to mute this session. Distress is often the cause of a disruption. It's important to recognize the stress while still addressing behavior. So John, you're clearly emotional right now, and you need to stop arguing. Say, John, I can see that this topic has you upset. However, we need to bring this debate to a close. So again, these are kind of practices if you're in that synchronous mode where this is happening. Now, if it's happening asynchronous on a chat or a discussion forum, and you may not catch it right away, that's where you just need to be monitoring, be very mindful and monitoring other ways that communication is happening, and again, nip that in the bud. Okay. All right, so my final thoughts. So be steady, be consistent, be firm and fair. I taught in the prison system for a long time, and the thing that got me through that for the length of time that I did that was firm but fair, and I had the most respect from my students just by being that firm and fair. Acknowledge the feelings of the individual. We know that things are going to be challenging, they're going to be stressed. So acknowledge that and help them come up with some ideas. Address the disruption individually, directly, and immediately. Be specific about that behavior that is disruptive and set your limits for it. Remove or mute the student from that class session if the student does not comply with your actions. Now, when I'm saying that, I'm not saying remove them out of the online class, but like if it was an online session that's synchronous, you can remove them if they just aren't complying. If things are happening over and over again, then that's where you guys are just going to have to escalate, in that process we talked about at the beginning. And then contact the student directly to explore the causes of the incident and discuss appropriate behavior. So that is that. Before I explain this slide, I wanted to check in and see what kind of questions that we can try to address. It looks like Beth has been trying to answer a lot.
Yes. So some of the questions that we had were starting when you were talking about taking them into the private chat room is to make sure that you're recording because being in a private room, you have to be very careful. It goes back to what you said about walking the line.
Absolutely.
We had a question from Sarah, and I'm hoping that it was addressed for you throughout the session about how to have a student actually be present. How do you help them be present? So if you still need some ideas on that, let us know. There's some Google Classroom questions. I don't have the answers right now, but we do have some Google Classroom offerings, and you can also hop into our office hours, and they would be glad to help you answer those. For attendance questions, I would talk to your leadership because it depends on your school and your district on what they're requiring, if they have to prove that they've been in class for so many hours, or if it is just if they're turning in the work. Using screenshots is absolutely a great idea for behavior and to have it so you can turn it over for the discipline reports. And I think that was it.
Yeah, this is I know everybody's saying this over and over again. It's a new norm. It's a new thing. And just once everybody gets into a new schedule, we don't know how long this is going to happen. So you guys will get into a new schedule and a routine, and you'll be able to find out what needs your students, especially some difficult students, might have. And remember, using that empathetic approach will go a long ways on trying to help them. It's like, okay, she understands what I'm going through. I'm just not able to figure out how to work around this. This is where we all need to step in and say, okay, here's some ideas on how to deal with this.
So team teaching, it can help you ease into it if you do have someone that you're able to teach with. What we have liked to do when we're doing the webinars is we like to have, at least if you look at the list, there are multiple of the Region 10 digital learning here, so that while Lori is presenting, I'm watching the chat because she can't see the chat. So having that ability, if you do have someone, it is absolutely helpful.
I will definitely stay online for another few minutes, but I'll explain the slide to you. So we are giving certificates out there, manual certificates. To do that, you're going to go to that that very first link, the bit.ly /attend dash R10, what does that say? Remote. When you go there, you just complete it. When you are typing your email address in that form, not in the chat, people, I messed up on this last session. In that form, you're going to type your name, your first name, last name, your email. Be sure you're typing your email address in correctly, because poor Catherine has been, I think she had like 30 some odd email addresses she had to correct because it was kicking back. So be very careful in typing in your information in that attendance form. This presentation, there's the bit.ly link where you can find this presentation. That bottom link is the at-home instructional support site that a lot of Region 10 folks are curating with all kinds of resources. It also has the link to webinar schedules. We are already creating our sessions for next week. We're trying to think of ideas, or we've got lots of ideas already ready to go for next week. So all three of these links will help you with getting going in your new life as we know it as a teacher.